Hi and welcome. You have seen this system in many devlogs, tutorial videos and streams. It's one of the most easy to use project planning systems out there, a so-called Kanban board, which is basically an endlessly large blank wall on which you can sort cards into columns to track the progress you make. And this software is Trello, which is, in my opinion, the best implementation of a Kanban board. I have been using it since around 2015, both privately and professionally. The largest system I set up was a connected Trello workspace for approximately 20 coworkers, along with outside contractors. It had multiple topic hubs and hundreds of automations, which I administered and provided training for over a few years until I changed jobs and became a teacher. I love training and automation. This video is not sponsored and it's not tied to any game engine. You will be able to use this for every project you want to plan going forward. After creating a free account, you'll be asked to name your first board. I'm showing mockups here, by the way, because the tutorial was set to German for me and not helpful to an English-speaking audience. You can always rename your boards later. You can also already invite others to the board, though to be honest, I usually first set up everything we might need at the start and then get others on board. That has worked much better in my experience. Also, you will be greeted by the subscription model. Don't click accept, don't sign up for it. In most cases, I'd say the free one offers all beginners will need. You will have a limited amount of boards to create, but don't sign up for anything before giving it a good try first. Personally, I'm currently using the free tier, but I have used the standard as well as the premium ones in the past. It all depends on your current needs. Trello has 4 subscription tiers: free, standard, premium and enterprise. The biggest points on which I choose if I need any of the first 3 are the amounts of boards I get. If I need guests on my board, think of those as outside contractors or service providers instead of constant team members. If I need custom fields to be automated, more on those later. If I urgently need a built-in calendar. If I want to make my board public and have watchers who can come in and see cards' contents, and if my current team is larger than about 10 people. Everything else is set dressing. If you wonder what workspace command runs are, we'll cover those in the next video on automation. Welcome to your first Trello board. You have 3 areas on your screen. The top bar where you can find your account info, alarms, and most importantly, the search bar. The left area where you can quickly jump from board to board in case you have multiple, and the board itself. The left bar also shows the subscription tier you are currently on. I created a new account for this tutorial, so as you can see, I have only 2 example boards and am on the free tier. We won't need this for the rest of the walkthrough though, so we can hide it with a click on the arrow. So, this is your board. It's basically an endless canvas from left to right. It consists of lists, and each list has entries. Those are called cards. Cards typically move from left side of the board to the right. Because the basic color it picks is really one I like, let's first look at how to customize the board's look. Click on the 3 dots in the upper right corner and pick Change Background. You can either use photos from Unsplash, which is a very good site for stock photos and works well enough for personal boards, colors or gradients, or, and this is my favorite, upload a custom image. I recommend not picking a too busy one, but one with your game's graphics is always a good start. By default, Trello creates a new board with 3 lists: to do, doing and done. This is a good start as you can quickly jot down what needs to be done for any kind of project, and opposite to how many to-do list managers work, your cards are still visible and available once you have dragged them to the done column. This behavior comes in super handy once you need to write devlogs, patch notes or just a list of implemented elements for milestones reached. One of the questions I get most often about Trello and getting organized for projects is which lists to create. Which one are the right ones? Should you be using templates? First, no, don't use templates. There might, at some point, come a situation in which they come in handy, but I haven't run into that situation myself yet. You might like the lists they give you, but by picking a template, you not only get the lists, but also the images and cards on it, which means you need to do a lot of cleaning right when you want to start planning, which will only keep you busy without making any progress. But about which lists to create? Well, that always comes down to the needs and the size of your project. Let's say you're taking part in a small game jam and have about a weekend to create your game. Using big, multi-list systems would be overkill. These 3 initial lists could really be all you need, especially when starting out. But as your project grows, your needs to organize tasks and cards will very likely change as well. What started with to do, doing, done suddenly needs very different named lists. Here you can see 3 of my own game dev projects, each different in size and layout, but each started out with just a simple 3-step board and grew into the shape needed to support me in creating games. Over time, some lists popped up more frequently from project to project, so by now I know I should add them when creating a new board. But that is simple experience and knowing my own workflows. The more you work with this tool, the better you will become at figuring out what you need. So let's keep the first 3 lists, but add our own 2 as well. Click on Add another list and name one Core Experience, the other My Wish List. By clicking and dragging them to the front, we can reorder our board. Core Experience is for all the elements your game absolutely needs. Also, we want to get rid of the pre-made cards. Click on the pen icon and choose Archive Card. On Trello's Boardview, cards don't just get deleted, they get put into an archive. We will have a look at that later. You can start by clicking on the plus and adding every system and generally thing that comes to mind as a new card. There are 2 categories of cards you will create: systems and tasks. They work exactly the same and even look the same, but function very differently. A systems card is a card holding all infos you need on a system, for example an options menu or an initial design draft, which will lead to more cards to be created, sometimes dependencies being informed. Task cards are the smallest elements you can create, for example, translate play game into German. You don't need much more info on that, and it works very well in a to-do kind of workflow. If you are familiar with Scrum, anything labeled lean or agile, design thinking, or other famous project workflow methodologies, you are probably already familiar with breaking down tasks to elementary particles, so you can pick one, work on that, and mark it as done without having to analyze the net of dependencies for every new task. If you implement Trello into your own workflows, you will run into both of these card types. Big ones to store infos, plans and dependencies in, as well as smaller task-based ones to quickly make progress. So let's give this a try and start with the systems card. Create just a single new card and name it Initial Design. This visible card is just the front though. Each card has a back and you can access it by clicking on it. As soon as a task you added to a list is bigger than Translate Play Game into German, you will need this. The backside of each card offers a few entries at first. The title, which you can rename by clicking on it, something to toggle notifications on or off, which you won't need to pay any attention to when working on a board alone, a box for descriptions and notes, and a list of activities, which again you will rarely have a need for when working solo. When you click on descriptions, the area enlarges and you get a small text editor to work with. To keep things simple, you can create headlines by adding a number sign in front. It will fall back to normal text once you hit enter. You can easily create lists in there as well, but use them only for notes, not actual elements you need to check off, please. You add actually functional checklists by clicking on the checklist button and picking a name for the list. To be honest, most of mine are just called checklist. That's detailed enough for most cases. You add elements to it by clicking here, and if you look to the board view in the background, you can see that on our card's front, 2 icons got added. A small text block to inform us there is text inside the card's description, as well as a checkmark icon with 2 numbers. If I click on a checkbox, it not only gets marked or unmarked as done, the bar at the top will fill or empty accordingly, and on the front, we can see how many to-do items there are for this card and how many we are already cleared. Neat! After you brainstormed a moment and added all the elements your game might need to the checklist, it becomes apparent that a list is hardly the correct place for all of these entries. Checking off main menu might be nice, but surely main menu consists of many more steps and doesn't just spring into existence. For everything you know will include a multi-step process, which means it's probably a systems card. Click on the 3 dots to the right of the entry and pick Convert to Card. It will delist the element and add it as a card to the list the card is originated from sits in. I typically like starting a new board this way instead of instantly creating a card for everything that jumps into my mind, as this approach won't clutter my initial list to a point of me not wanting to keep working on the project. Give both ways a try, see which works better for you. Each card can have multiple checklists. Just click on the checklist again. But as soon as you have a first checklist on your board, you will get offered a drop-down of your list you might want to copy. That's why it comes in handy to give your lists recognizable names. Let's say I jump forward in my game's development. I figured I needed a list on my board for power-ups I want to create. Each power-up will need the same steps: creating the first prototype, creating the graphics, implementing the graphics, and bug fixing. Let's have a system card called Power-Ups and add a list to it called Power-Up Workflow. I turn one of the planned power-ups into its own card, open it up, and once I have created my first checklist, I can tell Trello to just copy it from another card into this one. It doesn't link them up, just creates a copy at the moment you added it to your card. This means that while you are working on your project and figure out which steps you actually need to repeat for multiple elements, you can update the initial list, and for every new card that gets created, they will grab the most current version of the list to add. Lists on card you created prior to any changes on the main list won't be updated though. If your game needs a lot of elements like items or enemies, which are probably all built roughly the same, I recommend creating a basic template for those. To do so, just fill the card up with all descriptions, checklists, and further infos you will need, and click on Make Template. You can now still keep working on it, but you will get a new button at the top, Create Card from Template. Clicking this will open a new card with all the infos you set up in the template. At this point, you might think, hey, what if a list element is really some kind of dependency? I need a link between those two cards, not just to randomly create a new one. Trello offers it, and you can go this slow and clicky or fast and cool way. We are going to cover both, but the latter one will need to wait a moment until we come to automating systems. Spoiler alert, I love automating Trello, and you should too. And if you enjoyed the video up to here, please give it a like and subscribe to see the next video at release. Let's stick with the topic of dependency a moment. The easy way to accomplish it is to reference cards belonging together through attachments. Just copy the link to a card, navigate where you need it referenced, and press Ctrl V. You'll get a dedicated area for Trello attachments, which basically bookmarks to the card you just linked up. You can see the card's front, on which board and in which list it is located. This link is one way, so it won't show up on the card you linked to. Copy this dependent card's URL, click on the bookmark, and press Ctrl V again to have the link go both ways. You can also add the card link as an entry to a checklist, which won't let you preview the card's front, but which can be easier to manage. We can and will automate and expand on this when we come to automating and simplifying tasks in the next video. One feature you don't see at first at the back of a card are attachments. You could click on this button to add them, or just drag and drop files, links, and whatever else you might need from outside Trello right onto the card. If you drop a file onto your card, you get an attachment category, which is a big box of elements. If your file is an image file, and this includes GIFs, the first one you added will get set as the card's cover image. In case you uploaded multiple images, you can switch between covers with this functionality. Let's have a look at covers. The cover image will be displayed on the card inside the list, which is a big help in many cases. I use them a lot for visual reminders to check certain things, or keep elements I need to reference easily visible on the board. The card front now also displays the amount of Trello attachments and normal attachments on itself. We can change the style of the cover inside the card's header area through this button. This one displays all the needed infos on itself. This other one basically turns your card into a headline or title image for your list or part of your list. In case you don't have an image attachment, you can also set a color instead, and if you have multiple images, it lets you pick one. I typically leave them as info cards, not as title images, but both have their use cases. If you add attachments to your template card, you can choose to not copy them over to a new card based on it. Let's go quickly over some simple settings before we get into the big label one. Through dates, you can set due dates or deadlines to when these cards need to be done. It will be displayed on your card, and if the time is getting closer or has passed, you will get a color indicator. You can also check the box next to the date once you finished working on the card. If you managed to do so before the due date came and passed, your card will show a green indicator. Custom fields are not available to free tier users. We will get back to those at a later point when we are taking a look at add-ons called power-ups in Trello. You can absolutely get custom fields on free tier, just not the ones offered by Trello on the standard tier. As mentioned, automation will come later. You will enjoy that part. Actions are rather self-explanatory, and we will have a look at the archive in a moment. Let's focus on the last important element on the card's back, labels. Labels will let you tag cards with predefined, tags. Labels will stay on your card, no matter in which list you sort them into, and each card can have multiple labels, which makes them very useful to use and have. Trello offers a colorblind mode, which I think is really useful to have. I am not colorblind though, so I can't say how useful it might be for those who need to rely on it. I'll toggle it on for this walkthrough anyway. By clicking on the pen tool, you can rename labels and give them other colors. The palette is limited, which is actually a thing I enjoy. This way I won't stress too much about picking just the right color and instead just use the one that makes the most sense. I'm convinced you won't need all 30 colors they offer for your project. Even the biggest board I administered was hardly using more than 6. Let's create 3 labels: must have, wish list and buggy. You can add them to the card in multiple ways. 1. Click on the check mark in this menu. This is rather slow. 2. If the card is closed, press Escape to close it, hover above it and press L. You'll get the same menu. It's nice if you're not yet familiar enough for the best step, which is 3. By hovering over the card and pressing a number from 0 to 9, the corresponding label will get attached. This is great for quick labeling. Press it again to remove the label. The numbers refer to the column of the chosen color on the label menu, which is in my opinion a bit of a strange way to assign them, but once you get used to it, it works out well enough. Alright, enough about cards. Let's have 2 quick neat features for making it more fun and organized on your board. As mentioned, cards move from left to the right. You just click and drag them from one list to another. I highly recommend adding one of these emojis to your done list for some much needed motivation to shove cards into the list. Truth be told, this stupid little effect is sometimes actually the sole reason why I keep on fixing bugs. It's just so satisfying to shove them into done and get confetti cannoned. And since details are important, if you name a card --, you'll get a small divider to divide cards with. Now the archive. As mentioned, your cards are never getting deleted from your boards. You can only archive them. You can get there by clicking on the archive button on the back of the card or hovering over a card, pressing E and choosing archive. The card will be gone from your board, but as you can see, if I had referenced it on a different card before, we can still access it. It will also be marked as in the archive. If you now click on it, you get the archive banner too. You can find the archive by clicking on the 3 dots in the upper right corner and going to Archived Items. You can open and inspect the card, of course, but you can also send them back to the list they originated from, as well as actually delete them for good. Having so many steps to take until getting rid of a card for real means there is a high chance of not doing any permanent damage to your project by accidentally getting rid of cards on the board. Since we now have ways to label our cards, let's have a look at filters next. You can open the filter menu with F or pressing this icon. You can already see a big list of things to filter for. For labels, just click on the corresponding ones. The cards stay in their lists this way, which is critical. I have seen people dragging certain cards into a certain list just to filter them, so please use this function. It is there for good reason. And if at one point your board becomes large enough that you lose track of where your cards ended up, use this search function. It says keyword, which just works like Ctrl F, but if you click on the small info icon, you can see all the things you can search for by utilizing this method. Also, you can use it across boards, which also is a very handy thing to have if your project at one point needs a multi-board approach. If you ever need a reference for the shortcuts, you can find them by pressing Shift?. Many of the shortcuts work by hovering over a card and typing a letter or number. It majorly speeds up work. Now that you have set up your board, maybe you want to invite teammates to it or turn it into a public board. You can do so by clicking on Share and sending them a link to the board through mail, or share the board by link to post however you like. No matter which path you take, you can add which kinds of rules apply for people coming to your board that way. The observer is only available if you subscribe to Premium though. People getting assigned as observers can comment on cards and see their contents, but not make any changes. If you plan to have a public board for a roadmap of your game's project, for example, you might want to upgrade your subscription to let others see and comment on your progress. Also, you can tag your teammates by mentioning them with @ and their username. It works in lists, description, and the activity feed. And finally, you can add descriptions and board rules by clicking on the dots again and choosing About this board. Oh, and before I forget, Trello has a very good implementation for your phone as well. So this way you can also, just wherever you are, add new cards to your lists. It is very handy to have. Alright, by now you should have a good first idea about how to work with the core systems of Trello. Next video will go into automation, which sounds scary and complex, but really isn't anything you need to be worried about. It is super powerful and one of my favorite features of Trello for good reason. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I might be able to work them into the next video. Also, you are very welcome to join my Discord. Have a great week!